Hello, anybody, and thanks for tuning in to Monday Morning Handicapping. This is a race recap, a follow up from my race forecast video. This is going to be a recap of the Grade 3 Lecomte Stakes, race number 12 on Saturday, January 18, 2025, at Fairgrounds Racetrack. It's a race for 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th on the dirt. The agenda in this video, I'm going to recap my projected race file from my race forecast video, look at the track and the field, look at the pace scenario where I thought each individual horse was going to be throughout the race, talk about the pick that I selected in that video, the merits and rationale, and also how my selection would win. I'll watch the replay with everyone, compare and contrast projections to the actual running, and any commentary on anything noticeable during the race. Follow up with some notes and takeaways. How did the actual race differ from my projections, and maybe some reasons why, and what can I glean and take forward with me in handicapping the next race. So the race profile, the track, there was a chance of rain. It did end up being muddy and sealed. Whatever day I checked the weather, it looked like it was questionable whether there was going to be rain. By the time the race came around, the track was very wet and muddy, obviously more rain than I anticipated. Originally a field size of 14, but there was 13 that entered the gate due to the scratch of number 3 Admiral Dennis, who I thought was a top contender in this race. As far as the pace of the race went, I thought that the 1 and the 2 were going to definitely be out in the front dueling each other. A little behind those horses was going to be the 4, 5, 8, 9, 11, 13. Again, I thought quite a bunched up field near the front end of the race. Some of the stalkers are a little bit further back, the 3 who's ultimately scratched, but also 6, 7, 10, and then the closers to 12 and 14. So a race where I thought most of the field was going to be in the mid-pack. That's just kind of how I set up the race in my head. My top pick was number 1 Innovator. I thought the horse was the speed of the speed. It drew the rail to save all the ground, which I thought was a big plus. Was going to be the fastest of the front runners, the other one being the 2 3-year-old son out of Authentic. So the father of this horse was a horse named Authentic, who was out of Into Mischief. So I thought that the distance wouldn't be an issue. Innovator is one of the few horses with the sprint to route angle, which I like. So running one-turn sprints to a longer distance race here. I like the first time they try that. Usually I see a lot of horses run pretty well the first time routing. I thought it was going to handle the distance, be able to slow down the pace of the race, run in the 23-24 second quarter mile range. This horse broke its maiden in its 7th start, but Authentic horses tend to be late bloomers, so I just thought that this horse was coming around and really maturing physically and mentally. As of late, Innovator matched its top figure last time out, so ran a figure that was tied with its best ever. These are speed figures, Beyer speed figures. It was going to be 4th off a short layoff. Recently battled with a top Kentucky Derby contender named Barnes, so I thought the talent was there. And recently had a 5 furlong bullet workout in 59.6 seconds, so I thought this horse would be coming in fit and condition. How it will win, I thought Innovator was going to go to the lead this field wire to wire, and run fractions about the high 23s, next quarter mile in the high 47s, around 113 to the 3/4, high 138 to the mile pole, and then finish the race around 146 1/4. That was just kind of the projections in my head that I had before the race. How I played this race, I realized I didn't have a strong opinion when handicapping the race, at least not on a win end, so I played accordingly. And if you watch my video betting on horse racing where I talk about the pick threes, if I like a long shot and this horse was 10-1 on the morning line, I tend to like to single them in the last leg of any horizontal wagers, because if you're live to it and the horse does get bet down from the 10-1 morning line, you do retain a lot of that value, because so many people will see 10-1 morning line on a horse and not want to include it on their horizontal wagers. So less people that you're splitting the prize pool with should this horse win. Again, I want to capitalize on that 10-1. I thought the odds were going to come down on this horse, especially with the scratch of number 3 Admiral Dennis, but the horse ended up drifting up and going off at odds of 16-1. So the wagers I actually played, I went with 2 separate 50-cent pick threes starting in race 10. Remember, it was very rainy, so one of the races, in race 10 actually, was on the turf. It got canceled on the turf, moved to the dirt, so a lot of horses scratched out of that race. So my first pick 3 was the obvious horse to beat, the 7 in that race, race number 10, with all 8 runners in race number 11. I thought it was a pretty competitive field. I thought there were some long shots that could win. Number 9 was the big long shot that I did like in that race and ended up running a close second, in which case I would have had it in both of my pick 3, so I would have been alive to my one horse twice. But either way, the obvious favorite with all 8 to my 10-1 morning line for $4. Remember, 8 times 1 times 1 times 50 cents is a $4 wager. And another cheaper, more narrow pick 3. In race 10, I did a 7 with 12. 12 was kind of a long shot on the board that I liked. Of course, with tons of scratches, those odds were bound to come down. But I thought if I could catch a bit of a price early, I felt pretty good about this middle leg, taking half the field, only 4 horses. And the favorite did end up winning the middle leg, so that really reduced any potential payout. But the 7 did win the first race. The 1 won the second race. And then it came down to this last race, my top pick Innovator at 10-1. This ticket was also $4, so I was into this horse for a total of $8, paying $117 to the 1. That's combined. So each pick 3 was paying 58 and change. But the 1 did end off going off at 16-1 to my surprise. Again, I thought the odds were going to come down. So if I just took those $8 and bet it to win at 16-1, I would have came out with $128, more than my pick 3 was paying. But then again, if a long shot won the second leg, that payout would have been a lot higher. But just something that caught my eye when I saw the will pays on the pick 3 leading up to this race. So let's go ahead and take a look at the replay, and I'll give some commentary with what I'm seeing. So again here, I thought the 1 and the 2 were going to go out and duel. The 1 breaks very cleanly, gets out nice and easy, makes the lead. The 2 is not seeming to want to duel today, so the 1 pretty much has free reign. The jockey can get on any part of the track that he thinks is best for the horse's running. You can see he's getting off the rail a little bit. I leave that decision up to the jockeys, obviously. They've been on the track all day, so they know what part of the track is best, hopefully. And something right here I noticed, this jockey, see how his legs are at somewhat of a 45-degree angle? That tells me that this horse maybe wants to go faster than this jockey wants it to. It is coming out of those sprint races, so the horse is used to just sprinting pretty much all out as fast as it can from the jump, especially because this horse is a front runner type. But instead of the legs being straight up and down, you can see the jockey is pulling on the reins a little bit, and the legs are pushing forward kind of at this 45-degree angle, either fighting the horse and trying to slow him down, or just having the horse maintain its speed. But either way, you don't want to yank back on the reins and really slow the horse's momentum, but that's something that caught my eye. You can see the jockey's legs now are a little more vertical, so the horse is finding a rhythm, a stride, and the jockey seems to be okay with its speed at this point. If you look at up top, it's got a bigger lead than maybe I'd like to see. This horse is obviously just trying to draw off from the rest of the field. The fractions are about where I was hoping, a little quick for the opening quarter, but the half mile time, 47.91, about where I wanted to be overall. And as you'll see around this turn, this jockey kind of taps the horse on the shoulder. That kind of tells me that the horse is starting to slow down. So that's right there is about where I got a little concerned that maybe the horse wasn't going to be able to keep up the pace. You can see the jockey really starting to urge now, so the horse is being asked to really pick it up. A little over 113. I was shooting for 113 in my head, handicapping the race, so the latter part of this race is slowing down, but the body language of the horse and jockey is telling me that this horse really needs to keep that pace to win this race. Again, the horse down on the rail. I'm guessing that's a good part of the track to be on, I hope. The jockey's really asking for everything the horse has. This outside runner is definitely coming on strong, and I'm just hoping my horse has enough stamina. Doesn't quite make it, gets overtaken late, and loses by about a length margin in the end, takes 3rd place. And obviously, as you could see, the track was much muddier than I anticipated. Some of the takeaways from watching this race, I wanted to draw a distinction between the wet types of dirt track. There's wet fast versus sloppy versus muddy versus sealed dirt tracks. So there's varying degrees of how wet the track is. Its last race, when it won its maiden race, was a muddy sealed track, and that is what this race was today. And we're going to watch the replay of that race here in a minute. But when you look back at that race where he broke its maiden, that track did not look nearly as wet as it did today. So I wonder if maybe this horse can just carry its speed more on a drier track. I would say that's obvious, but some horses do run better in the mud. Maybe this horse would just be better in the future on a drier track. This horse is 1-for-1 on a muddy sealed track with a 400 Tomlinson for wet tracks. So if we look at Innovator right here, go up to the wet, which means on a wet dirt track, this horse has 1 start on the wet with 1 win, and this 400 indicates, based on this horse's breeding, how much it will or will not like the wet track, and usually anything over about 320 is considered good. When this horse broke its maiden, I wondered if it was all out last race. Was it overtaxed? In that race, it had the fastest opening quarter in its career. So if we look at Innovator's run line here, you can see in its last race, the first quarter was 21.81 seconds. And if we quickly scroll down, we will see that that was the fastest opening quarter in its entire race. It ran close to that at Saratoga a while back, but then again, that was on a fast track, so you would expect higher speeds. So this horse ran its fastest opening quarter the last time it raced on a muddy track, which was 20 days ago. In that race, this horse Innovator won by a small margin just ahead, and it was, I believe, 4-5 odds. And the horse was not visually overworked in that race. So let's take a look at that replay. And remember, it was considered a muddy sealed track just like the race we just watched. So you can see the track does not look as wet as today. Maybe that's the daylight just playing tricks on my eyes and less reflection. But here's our horse in the front at 4-5 odds. And the jockey with his hands isn't quite urging a whole lot, but it is going to the whip a little bit, just making sure this horse keeps up its momentum. This horse on the outside, it looked like it's going to pass him by and just doesn't finish the job. Our horse hangs on narrowly, and that's how it broke its maiden. So as I said, not visually overworked. The jockey definitely went to the whip, but I've seen more desperate urging from jockeys. Something else I noticed that this race, the Lecomte, was its fourth race in 52 days with 3 workouts sprinkled in between those races. So that's an average race per 13 days, which with workouts and of high caliber racing, high stakes, very competitive fields, and with its running style where it's in an all-out sprint, that could take a toll on horses. Sometimes you'll see horses run every 3 weeks or so, but this horse, after its layoff, raced again in 9 days, took a 23-day break, raced again, took a 20-day break, and then raced in today's Lecomte Stakes. 20 days since that effort of the maiden race we just watched. And in my video where I break down the Kentucky Derby paces and the previous 11 winners, the past 11 Kentucky Derby winners averaged their Kentucky Derby win 30 days since their most recent start. So for horses that are in peak performance winning the Kentucky Derby, they took 30 days since their most recent start. So that tells me that maybe horses in this day and age run at peak performance, they need a little bit more time than 20 days or averaging 13 days per race. 13 days, I like that because it tells you that the horse is sound. The trainer's not worried about any soft tissue injuries, that the horse is healthy and strong and feeling good. But when horses peak and win the Derby, it's been about 30 days since their most recent race. So something to take note of moving forward. There was also a 5 furlong bullet workout 10 days prior to this race. So with that previous race and the 5 furlong bullet workout, was the horse overworked since the last effort, especially stretching out to such a longer race and with that running style where you're pretty certain it's going to run fast on the front end. I do like the longer workout. It tells me that the horse is fit and feeling good, but it was the first 5 furlong work on the page between last race and this race. So if we look down here, its most recent race was December 29th. So here was December 21st workout, 8 days before this race where it broke its maiden. And then 10 days later, January 8th, ran that 5 furlong bullet workout, which was the best of 11 horses running that distance on the day, 59-3. But if we scroll across, here's a 4 furlong workout. Before that, it ran a 4 furlong workout. Before that, a 4 furlong workout. Before that, 4 furlong and 4 furlong. So the fact that this horse was coming back in, I believe it was 20 days, and it had a workout 10 days after its most recent race, a bullet workout, going further, going faster, and then 10 days after this workout, going further and running fast, going a mile and a 16th. Maybe the horse was just being overworked, and that's what caused it to slow down so much late in the race. Also, a lot of new things with this horse. I don't knock myself for the pick. I think it ran a decent race, but there's just a lot of little things like that in hindsight. I wish I maybe emphasized a little bit more. But this horse was also doing a new distance, a new type of race from sprint to route, 2 turns. It was a new track. It had never run on this track before. It's a big jump up from a maiden race into a grade 3, and the jockey was also carrying 5 more pounds than its previous race. I am curious to see what this track's variant is on this day. The variant measures how fast or slow a track was on a certain day. So if the variant is pretty high and this horse tried to wing it on the front end, doing all these new things, going a further distance, if the variant is high, I would give this horse another chance moving forward, especially with a dry track. Maybe mud is going to take a little more calculus on my end, but yeah, I'm curious to see what the variant comes back as. That's it. Thanks for watching. Any tips, advice, or requests on a new video is welcomed. Please like, subscribe, and or share with friends. And I always emphasize share with some friends who maybe aren't familiar with horse racing, but you think might be curious or interested in the sport. I love it when newcomers come along and ask me questions. I love to answer their questions because I was once asking my friends for tips and what things mean. So everyone I've met in this game is very open and honest and willing to share what they know. They love to bounce ideas off each other and handicap races together because 2 sets of eyes or more is always better than 1. For some of those newcomers, I have 2 separate playlists. One is how to read a racing form, where I break down all the components of the racing form, explain what it is, what it's telling you, and kind of how you can decipher it. Also, another playlist is betting on horse racing for some of those newcomers. I just go through all the bets real simply, explain what they are, how much they cost, how you place them at a window, and also some things that I look for when placing such bets, some ways to think outside the box when placing such bets. But that's it for this video. Good luck to Innovator next time out. I'll take what I learned from this race moving forward. I hope you will too. Thanks for watching and see you next time.